Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Catchin Up. I'm your host, Jack Smith, joined today by Coulter from the Mitty women's water polo team. Thanks for joining us today, Kennedy.
Thank you for having me, Jack.
So I know you told me before that early on in your Mitty career, you switched actually from volleyball to women's water polo, and I just want to know what went into that decision and prompted you to make that decision.
So I played volleyball competitively all through middle school and then into high school, and I was lucky enough to make the freshman team. And the volleyball program at Mitty is amazing. They have amazing members, amazing coaches, and they're super competitive. It just wasn't the right fit for me. And so freshman year, I actually tried out for both water polo and volleyball, and I chose to play volleyball. But sophomore year, I chose to play water polo instead, and it was probably one of the best decisions I have been able to make because the water polo program is just so community focused, and we really like to build each other up.
Was your freshman year, was that the first time you'd ever played water polo, or was it something that you kind of dabbled in early on in your life?
I had never played water polo before, so I had a couple friends who have played previously, but other than that, I knew nothing about the sport. And so I was a strong swimmer going into it, but I had no experience in water polo.
How did you learn it, and how was the learning process like? Was it a tough process, or did it kind of come to you easily?
Water polo is definitely one of those sports where you need people to help walk you through things. And so my coaches freshman or sophomore year were amazing, and the seniors and juniors or upperclassmen, I guess, were so great in helping me learn the skills and the basics of the game. And Coach Lavelle has been amazing in helping me to become the player that I am.
You said you had a strong swimming background. How was that able to help in your learning of water polo? Was that something that really benefited you, and was it something that you were able to use kind of to propel yourself?
So I've been swimming literally all my life, so it definitely helped me to have that background because it made it so I was confident in the water. I already knew how to tread water, and so I just had to learn egg beatering and specifics, but it definitely helped to be a strong swimmer and confident in my abilities in the water.
And then I know you said a lot of people have helped you along the way, teammates and coaches. What have you taken away from those people, and what have you learned from their ability to help you?
I took away a lot from the seniors and juniors who helped me when I was first starting. And so they really helped to put in the effort and walk me through the tedious, small skills that you need in order to get the bigger picture of the sport. And so I've tried in my own captain experience this year to really try to do that for the new incoming freshmen and also just any of the sophomores that played last year, but also don't 100% understand something. And I've really just tried to help teach the younger classmen and help people understand the sport because other people did that for me.
And then I want to kind of move on. What has your experience been like going forward in water polo after you joined your freshman year and then made the decision your sophomore year to stick to that? How has your experience been since then?
It's been absolutely amazing. The water polo community is just so loving, and we're like a family. It's um, we're always there for each other, and we build each other up in the sport or in the pool and out of the pool, and we help each other with school. And it's just we're very much there for each other all around, and it's not just focused on the sport.
I think that's amazing. But then focusing specifically on the sport, how would you describe your performances over your first 3 years, as well as the teams, and where do you see that kind of going this year?
So my sophomore year, I feel that we were doing very well as a JV team, and then when I moved up to varsity last year, it was an amazing experience because it was just so much more competitive, and we played very well throughout the season. We came third in WCAL and made it into open division, which was the first time a Mitty women's water polo team had done that. And so we were really proud of ourselves for doing that. And I think that we really came together as a team, and hopefully we're able to continue to have a successful season this year.
What did it mean to you to be a member of that first ever Mitty women's varsity water polo team to make the open division?
It was great. I loved my teammates. I loved the coaches, and it was just such an amazing experience to be able to be that team to make it into open division. and we were always just there building each other up and supporting each other to get through it. It was really great, and we just persevered and pushed through the season, even though we had a bit of a rocky start, but we just persevered and kept pushing, and we really grew together as a team and were able to succeed.
Could you describe that rocky start?
Yeah, it was very much there was a very large senior group last year, which all graduated, and so it was very much they had all played together, and then the juniors coming up had to adjust to their style of playing, and so it was kind of hard to like blend together at first, but we really got a hang of it about halfway through the season, and we were able to start winning games very quickly, and it was just really great, and it was great for us to start succeeding that way.
What was the thing that brought you guys together and eventually led you to being able to get past that rocky start?
Honestly, it's probably just the amount of time we spend together on the pool deck. There's practices every day, like most sports, and then we have our like 5-hour long tournaments on weekends. It was just the constantly being around each other and going through every win and every loss and every up and down with each other. It really just like brings you together.
And I think that something like that really sets your team up well for what hit us at the end of last year, having to go into quarantine. And water polo is obviously, like you said, or a hard sport to continue during this time because it's got to be hard to be able to have those 5-hour tournaments during a time like this. So how would you say that your team's chemistry that you already had built has been able to allow you to get through this?
I think that it's been really great. At the beginning of all of this, at like the end of the school year last year, we weren't able to have any pool time, and so we were really struggling to have like ways to bring the team together. However, we were able to establish like um, online Zoom calls for the team, and we were doing that at the beginning of this year as well. And then once pools were finally able to open up, it was like we had never not been working together and had never been separated, and so we got back into the groove of things, and we were able to start practicing again, and it's been great. We practice about like 3 times a week, and it's like the chemistry is still there between all the teammates.
I spoke with Sam Immersek earlier this week. He says the hardest thing about this whole situation is not being able to scrimmage. Do you feel like that is the similar thing to what he feels? And how have you been able to get past not being able to scrimmage?
Yeah, that's definitely, I agree. Like, that's probably the hardest part about all of this. Scrimmaging is definitely an important part of water polo and practicing it, because if you can't have that in contact practice, then it's really difficult to get the like flow of the game. And so it's especially difficult for the underclassmen if they don't know the sport as well. Um, and so I feel like it's been great having practices where we do our conditioning and our leg sets and our passing and shooting, but it's really hard not to have that like contact, because then we can't have the flow of the game, and it's hard to simulate that without the in-person contact.
And then what can you do as a senior leader to get past that?
So we've been doing a lot of drills where um, you use the wall instead of a defender, and so it's been a good way to like help us remember the like important motions that we need to like stay in the correct shape, I guess, for the sport. But it's really been just difficult, so we've been doing a lot more conditioning sets to get us more skilled at the parts of the game that don't involve contact, and then hopefully when we're eventually able to have contact in practices, then we'll be able to build up those other skills.
I think that's great. And I want to ask you before we wrap this up, we ask the same person every question. And I just want to ask you, is there anything else that you want to touch on before we wrap this up, or anyone you want to talk about before we finish the interview?
Sure. I think this year in particular, me and the other captains have really been taking a role on this team where we're trying to like be more of leaders. And so we've been taking much more like of an active role in the team and in practices. And so we've been designing practices throughout the summer. And then as our school season approaches, we've been designing practices and trying to get everyone more involved in the team, and hopefully like create more of a community and like avoid having any sort of like clickiness, so that everyone just comes together at one. So that's really been our goal, to like keep everyone to be part of the same community.
Well, I think that if there's one thing I could take away from this, is there's definitely a community in the Mitty Women's Water Polo program. And I just want to thank you for coming on, wish you good luck on the season, and just thank you for coming and catching up with us, Kennedy.
Thank you.